listening to The Bob Duco Show. All right, let's deal with the Donald Trump tax thing. I talked about this yesterday in the 3 o'clock hour because we did a partial best of yesterday. We were at our friend and colleague Joe Huck's funeral yesterday during the day, and I didn't get back until the middle of the show, and so we didn't do a news hour. So I touched on it briefly in the 3 o'clock hour. I want to hit a little bit harder now. The New York Times treated this as some kind of major bombshell story. And Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and the media, they've been running with this mantra that Donald Trump didn't pay taxes for 20 years. All right. Here's what happened. Someone took 3 pages, just 3 pages, of Donald Trump's 1995 taxes, somehow got access to them, took pictures of them, and sent those 3 pages to the New York Times. Not his full 1995 taxes, just 3 pages of them. Now, first of all, that person committed a felony. That is actually a prison time felony to do that. The New York Times went ahead and published this information from those 3 pages. And there's questions now as to whether the New York Times is guilty of committing a crime. But at a minimum, somebody committed a felony because it is a felony to disclose or release someone's private email or somebody's private tax returns in this way. But that's what happened. Well, so in this particular one from 1995, it shows that Donald Trump lost $916 million that year. All right, so you can see basically what the press has done. It's like, $916 million he lost in that year, but it gets worse. As the New York Times points out, you can stretch out those losses over the course of up to 18 years, and then theoretically it would be possible to, quote-unquote, pay no taxes for 18 years if you made no profit through the course of those 18 years by stretching out the losses. So this has been turned into Donald Trump paid no taxes for 18 years, which is not the case. You can't even know that. Remember what I told you yesterday. Number one, Donald Trump has paid all kinds of millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars in taxes and all the other kind of taxes. There's only one type of tax at issue here, and that's the corporate income tax on profit. Any business, any corporation, if you don't make profit in a year, you don't have to pay taxes on profits that you didn't make. Nobody has to pay corporate taxes when you lose money. If you lose more money than you took in, than you made, and you had a loss that year, you don't have to pay taxes on profits because there were no profits. And it's not known how many years Donald Trump may have gone without making profit. That's not known. All the other taxes he would have paid, and he declares that he did. But no company is going to pay taxes when you don't owe taxes. That would be absurd to say that that should be done. But I have to say, folks, there's been zero media interest in the felony of exposing his tax returns or the New York Times publishing them. Let's be honest. If Hillary Clinton's medical records were illegally obtained and then illegally photographed and sent to Fox News by somebody committing a felony punishable by imprisonment, and then Fox News went ahead and ran with that, you think the press would just ignore that aspect of the story and just focus on, well, hey, now that it's out, let's examine what Fox News is reporting about those medical records? You think that really is the only focus they would have? So, folks, let me say, Donald Trump, number one, if he lost $916 million in 1995, a lot of businesses, especially in real estate in Atlantic City, were losing their shirts and going out of business during that time. Donald Trump turned a very, very bad time financially with massive losses into a success, and he turned it around. I'm thinking that's a good thing. Successful businessmen turn failures into successes. Look at some of the biggest names of success that are out there in politics and in business, and many of them have a huge history and track record of failure. You turn your failures into successes. That's what smart people do. But then secondly, and here's what I want to stress, and this is what's so dishonest about this, didn't pay taxes for 18 years. If a company loses money, the IRS allows corporations to spread out those losses over several years, 10, 15, 20 years, in some cases even more. That's what the IRS does with businesses all the time. And it's a common business practice. Hillary Clinton herself did this in 2015. Look at her 2015 tax return. You know what she's going to see? Her and Bill declared just under $700,000 in capital gains losses, and they list it as a capital gains loss carryover. In other words, they're carrying that over for multiple years to be able to offset profits that they would make in subsequent years after that. The very same IRS law that Donald Trump used in 1995, Hillary Clinton used and is currently using today, starting in 2015. The exact very same principle. You know the only thing that's different about it? The amount of dollars. Hillary Clinton is spreading out the losses of $700,000 in capital gains. Donald Trump 20 years ago spread out the losses of $916 million because he's a billionaire dealing in billions and billions of dollars, whereas Hillary Clinton's merely a millionaire dealing in hundreds of thousands of dollars. You see what the difference is here. Other than the dollars, the principle is the same. It's the IRS carryover provision, which allows you to carry over losses for subsequent years. When you lose money, the IRS allows you to dig yourself out of that hole. When a hole is done, you can dig yourself out of the hole before you get back in the black and start paying profit again. All companies do this. All corporations do this. As a matter of fact, the General Accountability Office in Washington, D.C., they attest that on average, about 1 out of every 5 corporations in America in any given year are having carryover losses in this way. It's a common business practice. Donald Trump would be a poor businessman if he didn't carry this over. He would have been sued by his investors if he didn't utilize the tax laws, if he paid more taxes than he's legally required to. And if he has a massive loss, then you carry those losses over for however many years it takes you to dig out of. So if he makes profit the next year and the next year and the next year and the next year, those profits go against the losses from 1995 until eventually he's totally in the black, and then he starts paying profit on it. Folks, that's no different than any other corporations do. But you see how the press has treated this? Oh, Donald Trump avoiding taxes. The press has been reporting this as, quote, loopholes. It's not loopholes. These are the tax laws. This has been so dishonest. All right, a couple other thoughts on this next. You're on